You're listening to the Black Eagles podcast.
Ahmet Dursun Sergen aldı. Sergen Bülent yan yana. Sergen Bülent. Sergen. Yanında Tümer var. Tümer'e doğru aksın kaybetti. Tümer topu aldı. Sergen aldı. Gol! Gol! Gol! Sergen attı. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi.
İbrahim'in pası. Zuma. Şimdi Ahmet. İkinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş. Ahmet. Ve
Hello, Black Eagles, and welcome back to the Black Eagles podcast. My name is Kaan Bayezid, and once again, I am joined by my co-host Sinan Schwarting. Sinan, thank you for joining me again this week.
Yay! Look at us. Good times for us, relatively speaking. We got a big derby coming up.
Yeah.
Fun weekend ahead. A fun weekend of activities. As we speak, the two teams sitting behind us in the table, Kasim Pasha in 5th and Sivasspor in 6th, are playing. So only one of them will get points, or they'll both get reduced, right? Like reduced points. So, just 1 point each. I don't know. My language is. I'm too excited to do this episode. Let's go, Kaan.
I don't think this shouldn't be as an extensive episode as it was last week. I think we went pretty long last week, and we noticed there was a little bit of a issue with the audio midway through where my audio cut out. So not cut out, but was significantly lower in volume. So hopefully that won't happen today. But yeah, there is still plenty to talk about, despite the fact that this shouldn't be a super duper long episode. But on the weekend, of course, we played against Istanbulspor, and we continued our winning run under Fernando Santos, and we beat them 2-0 with goals by Simi Kilicsoy, who else? And of course, the first goal for Mr. Ernest Mucci. Sinan, what did you think of this game? Were you happy with the football that the team was playing? And of course, the performances of Simi, Mucci, and Al-Musrati is something I think we all paid close attention to.
Yeah. This was a good game, all in all. I think everyone was a bit underwhelmed in the first half, which is sort of a theme so far under Santos. But Semi Kilicsoy with the sort of moment of brilliance, the sort of one touch to bring it to his right foot and then curled it into the side netting. I mean, beautiful goal. Not necessarily undeserved, but I think, we weren't dominating in that first half. So it was certainly very helpful. Kind of helped settle us, right? Mm-hmm. And it was a really good second half. One of our better halves in a while, I thought, right?
Yeah, it was decent. I mean, I think it was a comfortable, dominant display. We scored the 2-0. Didn't press extremely hard, I guess, for the next couple of goals, but we never really got into any problems, right?
Yeah, it wasn't like earlier in the year where we might have a 1-goal lead, but you kind of knew something was going to come, right? Like you knew they were going to knock on the door and probably have we'd have to scramble in a life or death scenario. There was nothing like that, right? Like we really kind of held it down in this one.
Yeah, and that's been kind of a common theme in recent games. I think we've been not playing great, but we've been stable at the back, and we're probably over relying a little bit on individual quality. And Fernando Santos said as much as well, that I think he said something along the lines of right now we are 60% depending on individual quality and 40% depending on the team, and we need to change that to 80-20 with 80% team effort and 20% individual quality, and that's what he hopes to work toward. And I think that's a good recognition of the problem, so to speak. And he does seem to identify the issues after each game. He makes he says the right stuff. He says what everyone's thinking, really, which I think in the past we haven't really always had with managers.
Certainly not. Yeah. No, and it's actually quite impressive in a way, because I think we've all had some issues with his like selection, substitution, things of that nature. But at the same time, the sort of little tinkering he's doing, it's clear he's looking for something. And what's good is it's clear he's looking for the same thing that I think a lot of fans are looking for, right? Like hold the ball more, play a bit more assertively, everything that we've asked for essentially is what he said that he's trying to get the team to do. So yeah, you take the like slightly bad aspects, which aren't hurting us, right? As far as selection, we're winning regardless.
Yeah.
With the good, and the good is that he's, he clearly has a vision in line with what I think we would want him to, right?
Yeah, I think what we said last week as well is that we kind of seem to forget how deep we had sunk and how far we had to crawl our ways back up. And at the moment, I think the football isn't there yet, but the results are there for the most part. We've kept a lot of clean sheets. We've been scoring goals. Like I said, overly relying still on Simi. Also, Mucci starting to play a little bit of a role. I mean, this is his first goal, but he also had, in the previous game, the second goal we scored that Cenk scored was also Mucci shooting and the goalkeeper blocking it, and then Cenk tapping it in. And that's something that will return in the episode later, because the situation repeated itself in the other game this week. But the main takeaways, I think, for this game is another goal for Simi. He's on 9 now in the league. Puts him on 8 in 2024. On par with Mr. Reymanay, who's playing right now, as you had pointed out, against Kasim Pasha. So Sivasspor's Reymanay, also an Albanian, just like Mucci.
We've been linked with now, and I mean, in the garbage, it's like 3 months too soon for anything even remotely accurate to come out. But that makes Simi and Reymanay currently the top scorers of the year, of the calendar year. Obviously, Simi has 9 goals now, so he's still 7 goals behind the league's top scorer, Mr. Edin Dzeko. But if he keeps scoring at this rate, he'll get there.
I looked up some interesting stats, by the way, because I was very curious. We were debating yesterday in our group, in our WhatsApp group, like, or not really debating, but talking about the amount of an impact that Simi has had, or rather how he's how should I put it, really announced his arrival, so to speak. Like, it's been a long time since we've had an 18-year-old in the Turkish league do this, and there were really, I looked and I obviously you have to go back and you have to think and you have to you have to remember, okay, who made their debuts at a relatively young age, 18 years old, who was there at the time, who made a lot of goals. So I went back. Batuhan Karadin is actually in the season that he turned 18, scored 9 goals in 17 appearances. So if Semi scores one more goal in the league, then he'll surpass Batuhan from his performance in the 2009-2010 season. No, actually the 2008-2009 season, I believe. And then Oktay in 1993-1994 for Beşiktaş. He scored 10 goals in 27 appearances. And then Tanju Çolak, I did notice in the 82-83 season he had 16 goals for Samsunspor, but I couldn't find the numbers on how many games he did it in. So he had 16 goals. That's quite a lot. That was the season, I think, that he turned either 18 or 19. So we have to go back quite far.
And even that's like Anadolu side, where it's notoriously easier to, right? Like, you can put up numbers.
And I mean, it's over 40 years ago as well. You can't really put it in the same context. So I think the most recent example we really have is Batuhan. But the thing with Simi is something that people are also pointing out, like even the commentators, not necessarily the commentators, but the pundits are pointing out, like, he's scoring a different goal every week. Like, he scored with his left, he scored with his right, now he scored with his head last week. He's been scoring, like, I think he's got like 2 or 3 goals with his left foot. He's got a couple, the majority with his right foot. He is really scoring all different types of goals from different angles, different situations. It's he's really showing off that he's a pretty well-rounded player. I mean, I think his heading game for sure. I mean, he did score a header last week, but that's definitely the weakest point in his game right now. But most of his goals have come from really good shots, and he's also had a couple of almost goals where he hit the bar and stuff like that. I'm yet to really see him with a one-on-one situation alone in front of the goalkeeper. I can't really remember him scoring a lot of goals like that. There's a couple of them, I guess, but
we're not hitting on the counter much as we which again, it's perhaps kind of a testament to Fernando Santos, but we are playing a much more deliberate. We're building up, especially now with Mucci, right? You're starting to see something a bit more cohesive. It's not. I mean, it's actually. I was gonna before we even moved on to semi, I was gonna mention what we're doing now, getting results despite not playing, maybe the most beautiful football. It's still not we were doing this not long ago under Shenal Gunesh, if you recall, right? He didn't win, but he was undefeated for 15 games in a row or something. But it didn't feel this feels more sustainable. Am I right in saying that? It feels since it's sort of founded in defense.
I mean, I kind of feel like we're building something now. I didn't really have necessarily that feeling with Channel. I don't know. Now you have the feeling of, okay, Musrati is getting better every game. Mucci's getting better every game. I mean, we had a couple of really good opportunities in this match. I remember one extremely, I'm going to call it a sexy through ball from Al Musrati to Cenk.
And then Cenk kind of flipped it.
Cenk missed the target, but it was a really, put Cenk one-on-one with the goalkeeper. Then Mucci had a couple of really good passes where he put, I think also Cenk twice, and who was the other one? I think he had three. I mean, he had three really good chances that he created, and so we have been seeing this because obviously when you. I don't think many of us knew Ernest Mucci beyond maybe seeing a little bit of the Conference League here and there, but when we had to look at him, what type of player is he? You saw that he looked more like I want to say a Talisca type, more a goal scorer rather than a provider. And of course, he has been shooting a lot, and he's definitely somebody that likes to shoot. Not a bad thing at all, by the way, because we've scored twice off of one of his shots, and then he scored one of them. So 3 goals that he really, thanks to one of his shots. I've been seeing a lot more creativity than I actually was expecting to see. I was kind of.
I was going to say he's far better of a passer than Talisca ever was.
For sure. Yeah. And then maybe sometimes he'll overhit a pass and stuff like that. But he's 22 years old. He's far from the finished product. And
it's the ambition is still there, even when he overhits a pass. It's because he's trying something. That's crazy creative and okay, well, it's good to see the attempt. Right?
He's got a good shot. He's pretty. He's a quick dribbler. He's able to beat multiple people. He's really a handful for the opponents when he's on the ball, and I'm liking a lot of what I'm seeing. There was a lot of, I think, after the first game that he played was the 0-0 against Kayseri, and the types of people that it's probably people who sympathize with other clubs mainly already were coming out of the woodwork calling both Musrati and Mucci shit signings and
overrated and
not worth the money that we paid and that kind of stuff. And I have to. I mean, obviously, 10 million is a lot of money. But what I'm seeing so far from Mucci, I'm really liking. What I'm seeing from Al Musrati, I'm really liking. I mean, Al Musrati completely changed our midfield. We did, remember just a couple of episodes ago, we were talking about we don't have a midfield.
Yeah,
I feel like I said that so many times this season that we don't have a midfield, and now we have a midfield, and we play through our midfield, and it's obviously these guys have to get to know their new colleagues, their new teammates, and it's a gradual process. And I don't expect us to be firing on all cylinders. this season
No, it
yet.
takes time,
But
yeah.
I definitely think, in the summer with a couple of more additions, we can be a very formidable side for next season. And on Sunday, I think we're gonna see the first. We're gonna see how far we are along in the process, because Sunday obviously is a proper
big test, yeah.
It's a big test. We've only played lower ranked teams recently. We have to also point that out. I mean, we were good. I think we were decent against Istanbulspor, but you need to keep in mind they're bottom of the league with 12
And we
points.
beat Trabzon, but that was all semi, to be honest. That was all semi.
Exactly. So I mean, after the arrival of our two new signings, I think the transformation of the team has slowly been put into motion. That's going to be a gradual process, and I think probably Sunday is coming a little early to really see. I mean, if Sunday doesn't go great for us, it's no need to panic for us.
Yeah.
If Sunday
we shouldn't. Yeah. Yeah.
But if Sunday does go well, whether it be a win or a draw, but a good display, that would be really positive. But even if it's not a great result, I don't think it's the end of the world.
No, and Fernando Santos is saying the right things again, as far as we all assumed he would play very chicken, maybe like Amarte and Al-Musrati on the back line type thing. He's actually kind of said he doesn't want to change his game plan too drastically. He wants to sort of have us playing a certain way. It's a good chance to sort of have us playing the way he wants us to play against a real rival and opponent and all that. So I mean, he's again saying the right things. Another thing I was going to say about that point that I had started to introduce was, I feel that this is, even though you could probably argue we're kind of shithousing results and over-reliant on semi to some extent, it doesn't feel the way it did in that last stretch under Şenol Güneş, because I think it's founded in the back line, right? Like the most stable element this time around is that we're not conceding goals. We don't have to be kind of, it seems like anyway, we're not constantly afraid of conceding, right? It's not like every time they're running on the counter. And the reason I wanted to bring that up is, I don't remember who said this. I think this was in the group chat. I don't think it was like Sercan Dikme or something, but it could have been. Someone, it had gone around that Fernando Santos' big weakness was defending on the counter. And that would have been worrisome, right? Because as Beşiktaş, that's what we're doing. Right? That's technically the majority of the defending we're doing is on the counter, because we're typically the dominant side who has most of the ball. So that would have been very worrisome. The problem with that analysis is that it does not seem, certainly not so far, to be correct at all. Right?
I hadn't seen that, but I do. I mean, for me, when you say shithousing results, I do think under Santos we were for a while,
sure.
Like you mentioned before, the Trabzon game, and I even think in Kayseri the 0-0, and that's the danger of what we're the fundamentals that Santos is establishing, where he's focusing on the back line and stabilizing that, and kind of trying to stabilize the defensive organization, the organization in general first. Because we weren't scoring easily necessarily. I think we were always kind of relying on Simi to have a moment of brilliance, and that was in the Kayseri game, where Simi then that wasn't really his game. If Simi isn't having a good day, then you're not going to get a result. And then Kayseri actually had some really big chances in that game. We could have easily lost that 1-0 or whatever. And that's a danger of that type of game plan, or if you can even call it that. But now with the additions of Al-Musrati and Mucci, and I know they both played against Kayseri, but there was their first games. Mucci played out on the right, and Al-Musrati only played like 28 minutes or something.
Yeah, although that was like the best stretch of the game for us when he came on. So.
Yeah, but then you see the gradual improvements in the next games where they both started. They started all the games, and then you can really see that we are starting to less depend just on Simi. You have a lot of more. Al-Musrati is creating some danger. Mucci is creating plenty of danger. So it's not just coming. We're not just looking to Simi anymore. and Rasicka has been playing well as well. So it's definitely improved, and I think we are much less shithousing results the last couple of games compared to before these two guys were here. Yeah, for sure.
No, it's promising, honestly, so far. And I I mean, I think what's intriguing is that, like, you see the trajectory, like you can only imagine it getting better, and of course there's still little pieces missing here and there. Although I have to say, and I think we both have to acknowledge this, and I don't know how much you want to do it or how you want to do it, but we've got to talk a little bit about Necip momentarily. We've talked about that back line and how it's a sort of major part of our stability. What is going on with Necip? Because you and I have both been hard on him throughout his career.
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
I mentioned this in the group chat, kind of briefly offhand, but the more I think about it, I actually wonder if there's some truth to it. Every time we've had a coach historically, it's a Turk for the most part, and they're very aware of who Necip is, what he does, what his kind of role and history with the club is, kind of, what people's perception of, and he's always someone that's sort of been kind of like over relied on historically, but it's like in a tight spot, he's going to give it all for you, for the club, things like of that nature. Sorry about that. Now, what's interesting is that Fernando Santos seems to have actually brought the best out of him, and I wonder if it's that Necip couldn't rely on, Santos probably knew nothing of Necip coming into the club, so he really had to, for the first time in a long time, show a manager his quality, why you need to play me. I wonder if that's what it is, because it's marked, I would say. His improvement is serious so far.
I always feel like Necip plays a lot in the beginning when a new coach comes.
Yeah.
But the problem in the past, I think, has always been that Necip is kind
brain fart.
Obviously, that is, in my opinion, Necip's biggest flaw is the fact that he has concentration lapses. That can end up costing us a goal or whatever.
Or get a card in a stupid way.
I feel like we've been saying this for, we've been doing the podcast since 2017 or 2018, I think. 2018, I think. The second half of the 2017-18 season, I think, is when we started.
Yeah.
But I'm sure we have said this before. Necip is okay when he's playing central defender. Do not play him on the right back. Do not play him in midfield, because that's where...
Definitely don't play him in the midfield.
Yeah, and I remember during the Slaven Bilic era, Bilic played him on the right, in the right back multiple times, and Necip isn't if he's up against an agile, quick little winger, he's gonna make him crazy. Necip turns like a tank almost. He's way too slow to do anything with those guys. But he's 33 now, Necip, and he is experienced. And I feel like at the moment he is playing at a very high level for him, especially, but also just in general, he's playing at a very good level at the moment. And it's just, the older you get, the more experience you get, the better you get at reading the game, anticipating is very important as a central defender. And he even said this in an interview last week, I want to say. I think if I had started my career at central defender, I would have probably moved to Europe. And, he
said that. It's so funny. I said that too. I think I said a week or two ago, I was like, I wonder if those years that we wasted where he was listed as a central defensive midfielder and we would play him on the right side, if we were stunting, I wonder if he didn't just play as a central defender his whole career, if he wouldn't have certainly not gotten all the hate he did from us. But
it's not that he hasn't been used as a central defender plenty in the last decade or so. Sure. I think it's mainly
only in derbies though, right? Ironically, his better performances, but
he was. I remember the 2013-14 3-3 draw in Kadıköy where I don't remember. Oh, it was Raul Mereş who got sent off, and we were leading 3-1. And was it Samet Aybaba that? No, it was Bilic. Bilic puts Necip on at halftime because we were 11 versus 10. We were 3-1 in the lead. He puts Necip on, and in 5 minutes, Necip manages to get sent off.
Yeah, I remember that.
But after that, I think like he has, especially like in the Fenerbahçe derbies where he's played, like he's even scored in that 3-4 win we had in the championship season, stuff like that. Like he's been really solid in those games. And even if you remember in 2014-15 against Liverpool, Necip was really good as well. And like Necip is definitely somebody that over the years has been able to rise to the occasion in important games.
Yeah.
But it feels like in the smaller games there was always a concentration issue. And yeah, I mean, even against like Club Brugge, for example, in the Europa League that year, I think he was very poor. But then against Liverpool, he was able to he was really good. But then against I think Brugge in general that year was underestimation on our part, arrogance, and I think Necip definitely suffered from that as well. But maybe with the years now, that has improved for Necip, where he isn't as liable to have those concentration lapses, knock on wood, because we have a big important game on Sunday, so let's hope that he doesn't suddenly But yeah, I mean, I think the main issue for Necip has been throughout his career probably that he's kind of been seen as a utility player always. Like a Zaynut, like we spoke about this at the beginning of the season with Bakhtiar. Is probably one of his biggest detriments is the fact that he is so capable of playing different roles.
Yeah.
So the player doesn't really get used in their best role enough.
Yeah.
And I think Necip kind of suffered from that. Maybe Necip, if he would have been playing central defender from the beginning, would be seen in a whole different light right now. I'm still kind of baffled by the fact that the guy has been playing for Beşiktaş for 15 years and has never gotten a single national team call-up.
Yeah,
I mean, if you see the types of players that have played for the national team over the years, I mean, I'm pretty sure that if Necip was the same player but played for Galatasaray, I'm sure he would have had some caps. Yeah, but that's a whole different argument to be had, I think. But yeah, for sure. I mean, Necip right now is playing great, and let's hope long may it continue, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's slightly a mystery still to some extent. Because I don't know how much I want to commit to this idea of getting excited about Necip, in his role there. But because you said, we've been burned by that logic before. But I mean, yeah, he's been one of our better players for a few weeks now. It's kind of crazy.
I mean, yeah, for sure.
And like the other question is like, who do you pair him with? Kali has gotten healthier and sort of, I don't know, his performances are good again.
It definitely seems that Santos prefers Kali, because I mean, obviously we had the one game with Necip and Voral where I think we all came away with a positive impression from Voral. Then he hasn't played a minute since. So Kali returned after that. He was ill for that game, and then Kali has just played everything now. And Necip has. It's only been 2 games, I guess, but still, or 3.
He seems pretty committed to that pair. But again, they haven't done anything to suggest that we shouldn't have faith in them, right? Obviously, again, big test coming up. We'll see how this goes. But
yeah, for sure.
And so then, the question is, a guy like Talha, Sanuc, what do we do? We actually, again, kind of went from feeling like maybe you and I never wanted us to get a central defender, to be honest.
No.
I actually don't think that's true. But I mean, it definitely does feel like we're pretty settled back there now, right?
And it feels,
now we have too much. But Worrell again, right? He doesn't even play.
But exactly, why did we even get a central defender? You wonder then, right? We have Necip, we have Koli, and Koli was coming back or was already back from the AFCON at that point. So I never really understood that fetish. We have this fetish for central defenders. Every transfer window, we need to bring in central defender. It always seems to be the top priority going into a transfer season as well. And I feel I think everyone that I know is a fan of Tayyip Talha. For some reason, Santos isn't. Either he isn't, or there's a issue where there's
maybe he came back a little too soon from his
yeah, but he
injury
looked
or-
great though in the games
He
that
did.
play, except for that one match against Pendik. But I mean, who didn't?
Everyone was terrible. in that
Yeah,
one,
exactly. Yeah, Bakhtiar wasn't good in that game either, and I mean, Bakhtiar hasn't played much since, honestly. But he's at least been on the bench.
Yeah, he's like our backup left back lately, which
and
whatever.
Tayyip Tallah hasn't even been able to make the squad recently. But
Yeah.
he'll more than likely make the squad on Sunday because we did get 2 suspensions. We had 8 players who were on notice, and of course, one of the most important players on our team had to get a yellow card, and that's Jetson Fernandes. So he won't be able to play on Sunday, which is a big shame because I think he's always really good against Galatasaray. He always plays great. They always have a lot of issues containing him. So that's a big loss for us, especially I think people are underestimating his importance in our game plan. I think the amount of recoveries he does, the amount of ground he covers, people are focusing way too much on his offensive capabilities and are missing what he is actually contributing to the team with his dirty work and his fighting spirit and
and he's even there's I think an element to where he's like a coach on the pitch because the Portuguese thing with Santos and he like I think Santos can kind of transmit instructions to him more easily and then he can kind of I've noticed he's taking on more of a leadership role in the midfield, which is great. Like I think people tend. Obviously, there's this plastic impulse to kind of like look for goals and assists and like stats, right? But people tend to overlook the intangibles, and I don't think anyone who underestimates the value of someone who's going to run a lot, be fighting back for balls. Like if you lose the ball, someone's going to go in chase and like confidently get back and
be able
swipe
to
the ball
win
back.
it. Yeah, exactly.
Right, like it's. There are elements beyond numbers that you can kind of like quantify that are really important. And I people who one of my latest pet peeves are the people who crap on Jedson because it's just I don't know. It feels like it's easy to be critical of someone who's not putting up those superficial numbers. But it's lazy,
And I also think that his performance has improved the last 2 to 3 games since he's been able to play in a proper midfield with Al Musrati and with Mucci. Suddenly, you're starting to see more of his value because he isn't being he was being played as the 10 for a large part in this season, which was a big problem because that's just not where his qualities lie.
And the irony too is, he had a lovely assist in our last match. We haven't really touched on Konya much, but it's worth noting that when you have 2 midfielders who are playing their roles well alongside him, suddenly you're less focused on can he pass well, is he assisting, is whatever. But then the irony is that with less pressure on him, that's when we see that lovely assist, and you see actually his passing improve too, because again, he has to do less of it. He has more space to operate. I mean, everything about these 2 additions has made him more effective in that role. And it's also important to note that in that stretch where maybe he was like a little bit less than, it's not like but he just didn't have players of the quality of Al Musrati and Mucci. We literally didn't have another 2 midfielders for most of that stretch. We had maybe one.
Sali was
and
injured.
that one was like Demir Ege. Sali was injured for the longest time.
And Demir Ege hasn't really been able to get any minutes recently.
He's a noob. He's a total noob. Like, I mean, I don't know. It feels just. So
I was really harsh on Demir Ege in the beginning of the season, but I definitely came around a little bit more on him. Like I can see his quality. I think physically he needs to improve. That's just the way it is. Yeah. But I think in terms of footballing, like he's a good passer. So I think there's definitely there's something there for him for sure. I think the best for him would be that we send him out on loan next season. Yeah. So he gets plenty of minutes. And then, I wanted to just briefly mention this. Like, I totally missed this watching the game. Somehow, Bakhtiar came on in the 88th minute or something like that. And somehow he managed to get booked in the 4th minute of stoppage time. So he is also suspended for the derby. I didn't even see what he got booked for.
I don't even remember. I didn't either. I don't even remember.
I completely missed it. So there's 2 players will be missing in the derby. The biggest miss will definitely be Jetson. But we have Saldi and Amarte who can both play. And I think
93rd minute. Oh my god, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, I saw it after the game.
So annoying.
Yeah, because somebody mentioned Bakhtiar is suspended. I was like, what? How? What? How did that happen? But yeah. So let's move on to that derby. Then let's quickly talk about that. It's on Sunday. It's a big game. More so for them than it is for us. I think for us it's a really big game for us because we are winning. We haven't conceded any goals at home. We haven't conceded any goals, period, under Santos. I think it's a really big game for us in terms of momentum. I think it's also going to be very important for the fans. I think if we can get a good result from this game, it's going to really bolster the confidence of the fans. Maybe get them to the stadium. Because I mean, obviously this game is sold out, but our recent home games have been like. The attendance hasn't been great. Officially, there's 35,000 tickets sold, but then lots of the season ticket holders don't come, and there's lots of richer people in Turkey that buy a season ticket just so that they're able to go to the derbies and stuff like that. So there's still a lot of empty seats. It would be nice if we could get 5,000, 6,000 more people in every home game, and maybe if we can get a good result against Galatasaray, get the positive vibes going again within the club, which is already kind of starting. But I definitely think that a good result on Sunday can do a lot towards that. But for them, this is an extremely crucial game. They just got booted out of Europe. They just got booted out of the cup. Spoiler alert. So for them, the Super League is the last thing.
All they've got.
They've got left.
It's such a huge disappointment for them this season so far.
I think they've been in a tremendous form in the league. If you look at both of them, Galatasaray and Fenerbahçe, they've lost once and they've drew twice or something insane. It's crazy how good of a run they're on in the league. Obviously, the football isn't always great, and there's shithousing results, and they're getting
help from the VAR.
They're getting penalties left and right. I don't know if you watched their game on the weekend, but yeah.
Both of our rivals now are getting those dodgy calls. It's weird.
Dodgy. It's they're penalties. If you take a magnifying glass and you zoom in and you look for they're penalties. Sure, I've seen other penalties like that are much more blatant for us, but also other teams they don't get this type of treatment. That penalty that Fenerbahçe got on the weekend, that handball in the 94th minute to win them the game.
Kaan, you might have to mention your data that you collected.
Yes, I will actually. But that penalty, none of the Fenerbahçe players were even protesting for it. Nobody. It was just nobody knew what was going on. Suddenly, he's talking to VAR, and then there was
And that's the thing about VAR that a lot of people forget is there has to be some reason for VAR to be called in, right? It's not just you always go to the VAR booth no matter what. And typically you don't. So I still wonder what even got the VAR booth involved.
You did see I did see a zoomed in angle where you could see that there was where he definitely made a move for the ball.
Yeah.
And I cannot argue that it's a penalty if I see that. But what I wonder as well, the player, what on earth is he thinking? There's no reason for him to do that. He was there was nobody there. He could if he did not touch that ball, it just goes out. It goes straight out. So it's yeah. And then you have the penalty the 2 penalties that Galatasaray got on the weekend. They got 2.
Yeah, missed one.
Yeah. The first one is you have to zoom in to see the contact, and even Galatasaray fans online, or some at least the more sane ones, were saying that's not a penalty for me. And so I did do actually some. I went back. I went into Transfermarkt and because they have all this data for penalties received, because Fenerbahçe have had 14 penalties this season, They have only scored like 9. They scored 9 of them because Batshuayi missed and then scored rebound. So officially, that doesn't count as scoring a penalty. So they have only scored 9 goals straight from a penalty, but they've had 14. They've been awarded 14 penalties. And then Galatasaray have been also awarded 11 penalties already this season. So they're pretty close there. So
and where are we at? Like 4?
We are on 4, and we missed 2. Trabzon has 1 penalty this season. So, it's always like the argument is always like, but the teams that are attacking more and that are, dominating and they're in the box and around the box more are going to get more penalties. Yeah, that's for the most part, that is true. But
that's a huge gap.
It's a big gap. But even this season, I think we can all agree we have been utter trash for the most of the season, especially offensively. So I can understand there's a big gap between us and them. I can get that. I think we should have probably been around 6 penalties or something like that.
Well, and I was remembering the penalty that shouldn't have been called in this last Galatasaray match was close to a call, which we did not get. In our case, it was a more obvious penalty with Rashica. Remember Rashica?
I think it was more the Rebic one where you could,
the Rebic one too.
Because the argument, that's the same game by the way, but the argument for this one that they got is there's contact. Okay, well Rebic got the guy stepped on his heel, so that's a penalty then. If contact is the only reason for a penalty, then that's a penalty. And Rashica was an obvious penalty. So I think realistically, if we would be on 6 penalties or 7 penalties this season, I don't think any of us would be complaining. I think that's normal for us this season. But then I went back because I have been watching. We've been watching Beşiktaş for a long time. This is not a new frustration where these two teams are usually always ahead in getting those types of calls. It's not just those calls, of course. It's also free kicks around the box. Mm-hmm. It's also red cards. It's also yellow cards. It's a lot of things. It's a lot of things. But let's focus on these penalties for a second. I went back 38 seasons, including this season. I went back 38 seasons. Galatasaray, absolute kings of the penalty. 306 penalties in 38 seasons. Fenerbahçe, very close second, 304 penalties in 38 seasons. Beşiktaş, 241. So we are 65 penalties behind Galatasaray, and we are 63 behind Fenerbahçe. And then the big argument of, the teams that play for the trophies. Well, you know what? Beşiktaş, 9 titles in those 38 seasons. Fenerbahçe, 8. Beşiktaş 28 top 3 finishes, Fenerbahçe 27. Galatasaray 28 top 3 finishes, Beşiktaş also 28. So
you're talking.
I can understand there's a difference, but 60 something penalties. That's ridiculous. And if you look at the last since VAR got introduced, it's been 6 seasons since VAR got introduced. Galatasaray have had 10 plus penalties 6 out of 6 seasons. Fenerbahçe 4 out of 6 seasons. Beşiktaş 1. 2. I think it's 2. And Fenerbahçe 5. Fenerbahçe is 5 out of 6 seasons. Beşiktaş 2 out of 6 seasons. 10 plus penalties. We won a title in that time span, mind you. Fenerbahçe haven't won a title in 10 years. I mean,
another funny point. It's definitely worth mentioning is remember how Fener was gonna change the sponsor and their shirt. This whole protest because BN was so corrupt and destroying them with the referees and all this stuff. And then you look at the numbers, and they've had 2 penalties less than Galatasaray over this.
They had 17 penalties last season, Sinan.
They're in no position.
Almost a record.
Both of them though, Galatasaray and Fener, who also always complain. They all just need to shut the hell up. Let's just be serious.
That's 31 penalties in 2 seasons. 31 penalties. That's more goals than some teams in the league have scored.
Appendix scores
So one more thing, the record is Galatasaray's record. 18 penalties in a single season in a 34 match season. 18 penalties in the 1996-1997 season, I believe it was. And I don't know if that's it doesn't matter. Anyway, we've spent a lot of time on, but I mean, there's just there's a systematic bias towards those two clubs. It's just no denying it. Trabzonspor were on 212 penalties, mind you. They finished in the top 3 15 times in 38 seasons. So there's and the discrepancy between Beşiktaş and Trabzonspor is less than half of what the discrepancy is between us and those other two. And
Trabzon has won one title.
One title in 38 years, and like I said, 15 times in the top 3. So for the majority of those 38 seasons, they haven't even been in the top 3.
They were like pretty mediocre.
Yeah, exactly. And the difference between us and them is relatively small. I do have to point out, Trabzon have had 2 seasons with 0 penalties. That is crazy.
That is insane.
0 penalties in a single season. That is insane. So
I wonder, were those after the big Fener controversy? Maybe
one of them was actually, and then the other one was in the 90s, I think. Anyway,
maybe they were just god awful back then.
Yeah. Anyway, the Galatasaray derby on Sunday, so it's really important for Galatasaray. They are 1 point ahead in the league right now on Fenerbahce, but you can see.
Hang on, I got to knock on wood on air because I don't want after this whole thing to see a penalty in like the 90th minute.
I mean, we've played 2 derbies this season and we got 3 penalties against. Fenerbahce got 2 against us and Galatasaray got 1. The Galatasaray they won their game in their stadium in like the 86th minute with a penalty. Remember, like a handball. It was a handball. Yeah, that's penalty, right? But I think we had a penalty shout in that game as well. But I don't remember. It doesn't matter anyway. But yeah, Sunday, big game. I really hope we play just for our own sakes, for the positivity around the club. I want us to get a good result. I don't really. It's not about.
I have to be honest. I don't even care if it's a win or even a draw. I just want to see really good football because, if we play great football and then the refs give a penalty at the end and they sneak the 3 points, it'll break our hearts. But there will be a lot for us to take from a scenario like that. It's
Halil Umut Meher who's the referee.
Exactly. I was going to say the hum.
He has a notorious reputation. He's actually, a lot of people claim that he is a known Galatasaray fan, a former season ticket holder and stuff like that. So I don't know. I'm not going to go into that too deeply, but the numbers are pretty clear in the sense of the matches that he's officiated are games.
I don't think Galatasaray's lost a match that he's refed. There's something like that.
No, they have one game. They have a couple of losses, but we have 8 or 9 or something. He's really not. He's not a fan. He's not our fan for sure. I don't know. We don't know which these games were. Maybe some of those games were deserved losses. It's hard to judge based on that alone. But yeah. Big game on Sunday, and hopefully a good result so we can keep the positivity going. And it's always fun if you're not in the race to still play a role in it. So Fenerbahce will be the Fenerbahce fans will be looking at us and hoping for Beşiktaş to pull what they did last season, which was
a choke jab.
Well, they don't want us to choke, right?
Yeah, right.
Anyway, let's.
I see Fener. Yeah, right.
Do you have anything else to say about the game on Sunday, Sinan?
First of all, Kasım Pasha and Sivas are still tied, which is probably the best result for us.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
We're level on points with Trabzon, so really, the rest of the season is going to be a competition between us and Trabzonspor for 3rd place.
Yeah.
We probably have the upper hand, right? We did beat them recently.
We did.
I think we're playing much better football than they are.
They beat us 3-0 in the first half of the season, so they have the head-to-head. So if we end on
I just mean as far as like recent form,
Yeah,
and comparative
okay.
performances, right?
They've
We're
already
definitely playing the better football. at the moment.
they've already had the Galatasaray game though, so we're still having that one now. And then they also still have a Fener game, but we also still have, and theirs is at home.
At home.
Whereas ours is away. So I think it'll largely depend, if they keep winning or not. But at the end of the day, I think the next subject, which is the cup, is probably far more important. Because obviously, if we win the cup, we go to the Europa League.
It doesn't even matter.
Yeah, so as long as we finish in the top 4, I think obviously it's better for us to finish third. It's always better. It's also better for optics and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, if we don't, but we win the cup, it doesn't really matter that much, right?
And that said, if we get third place but win the cup, it's actually so ironic because I think if going into the season, knowing how much... Remember, going into the season, we even said Galatasaray and Fener have spent so much money.
Yeah.
It'd be great if we could pip one of them into second place, but it's so unlikely and da-da-da.
Yeah.
So third place was almost always in the cards to some extent. Winning the cup was obviously something that we said should be kind of a priority from the beginning.
Yeah, we did.
So if we can actually end up finishing in third place and win the cup, it's almost like we can just let go of all the trauma involved in the season. Forget about all the crap that we went through and just pretend. We can just pretend like it was a fine whole year.
It
Good
can
time.
it can salvage. It can salvage the dreadful first half of the season to an extent, for sure. Yeah.
And which was probably the worst half of a season we've experienced as Beşiktaş fans. I've personally never seen a 5-coach Beşiktaş.
No. In the mid-2000s, we had a period there where it felt like we were changing coaches pretty regularly as well. But definitely not at this rate, for sure. So are you ready to move on to the cup game then, Sinan?
Let's do it. Okay.
So a couple of weeks ago, we played Konyaspor, beat them 2-0. And the same thing happened again in the cup. We beat Konyaspor 2-0. This time's goals by Salih Uçan and Cenk Tosun, the two guys who are on expiring contracts and have been... there's been a lot to do about their contracts and potential extensions. The board are set to sit down with them after the derby game, apparently. They both got on the score sheet in this game. The first goal, again, off of an Ernest Mucci shot, rebound. Salih Uçan follows it up nicely, taps it in. 1-0 in the first half. And then in the second half, we had, as you had already talked about earlier, Jetson's assist from the corner and Cenk heading it home 2-0. Pretty straightforward win for us. Never really too much issues, except at the end there where Necip certainly saved us from a typical Beşiktaş sweaty moment at the end. But it was all in all, an okay game from us. We played with a strong lineup. Svensson in the first 11. I hope we get to see that again on Sunday.
Me too.
Any major takeaways from this game other than Mucci was great again?
Again, kind of a tale of two halves, right? Bad first half, good second half. But not as bad of a first half, and actually a better second half, right? So again, we're trending in the right direction. Semi again, didn't get any stats this time around, but a great contribution all around.
Yeah, good performance.
Obviously, Mucci, you would have loved to have seen Mucci get that goal rather than it hitting the post, but nonetheless,
and
I think we all kind of, in our mind, we gave him that goal, probably, right?
And he scored. He did score, but the goal got disallowed.
But I meant the one that Salih tipped in, right? But for sure.
But that was the goalkeeper that spilled it. It didn't hit the post. The goalkeeper spilled it. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's
you're right. You're right about that. Did the keeper hit it off the post?
No.
I guess no. He just. But he didn't. It wasn't a bad spill on his part, right? Because maybe a little bit of direction of the spill.
It's always dangerous when the ball bounces a little bit before it comes to the keeper, and it took a bounce, so it fooled him, and it definitely wasn't. It definitely was an error. But it doesn't matter. I mean, it's the second time we've scored off of a spill, off of a shot. I don't think this was the best shot, but he had a really good goal in the second half that got sadly disallowed. Then he also had
the shot was powerful enough that I didn't feel like the keeper should have caught it. I think it was more like where he spilled it, right? It was like kind of right into the path of Salih, kind of right in front of him. But I wouldn't have expected him to have caught that ball. It had some velocity on it, as I recall.
I think it's...
Maybe you need to punch it out to the side or
something.
It
was pretty. So, I've been watching a lot of Kirby enthusiasm lately.
Is that Larry David?
Yeah, this is Larry David. No, I think he could have done better, the goalkeeper, but I don't care. I mean, it's another goal we scored thanks to a Mucci shot, so... and then it's too bad in the second half, his goal got disallowed, and then also he had an assist disallowed. Abubakar scored, but also disallowed for offside. So, all in all, good performance. I think. I mean, not a great performance. It was a so-so performance again, but a good performance from Mucci. Good performance from Musrati. Semi had a couple of moments. All in all, positive that we went through.
And good is relative. I'd say it was good in that it as far as those building blocks, right? It was again a good step in the right direction, right?
Yeah, for sure. And the most important thing is that we qualified for the semifinals in the Turkish Cup. Anything you want to add on this game, or can I move over to the table in the cup?
Yeah, let's talk about. So next up, right? Or we could even talk about that whole quarterfinal round, since
that's what I'm going to talk about. So Trabzonspor,
two rivals out.
So Trabzonspor managed to eliminate Başakşehir 1-0. I watched almost all these games, by the way. Trabzonspor, for the majority of this game, they were in control and they deserved to be 1-0 up. Başakşehir played a B team, which I found weird, because Başakşehir are in a position where they're safe. They're mostly safe from relegation. I mean, they're not super safe. They're
in like sixth place, right?
Theoretically, they have 36
maybe
points.
They're fighting for fourth.
They have eight. They're like 8 points above the drop off. So they're not super duper comfortable, but they're comfortable enough. 8 points should be fine. And then they don't really have a super realistic chance at Europe through the league, because
10 points behind us. Although remember, if we win the cup or Trabzon,
yes, but then they have a lot of competition for fifth.
Kazım Pasha and Sivas. They're really watching this match.
Sivas, Rize. They have a lot of competition for fifth. So fifth will if we
maybe that's what they're fighting for.
Maybe, but still, I think it's weird. I thought it was weird that they would put out such a weird lineup. And then, after they went 1-0 down, they put on multiple starters, and they really pushed Trabzonspor back, and just couldn't find the goal in the end. Trabzonspor were holding on for dear life. And then the biggest upset, I think, this week, biggest upset, I mean, I think we had two big upsets. So in that part of the table, I think the biggest upset was for sure Fatih Karagümrük winning 2-0 away at Galatasaray. That's Galatasaray's first...
Yeah, because I guess at least Ankara Gücü was home, right?
Yeah.
That's true.
And that's Galatasaray's first domestic loss this season. They haven't lost at home yet in the league. So.
It's such good timing for us.
Yeah.
You gotta love that.
So 2-0 in that game. Goals here were from Marcao and from Ryan Mendes. And for Trabzonspor, it was Trezeguet who scored. So 2-0, Galatasaray out in the cup. Might be a tactical exit, although I watched the majority of this game. It didn't really seem like they were trying to get eliminated. I
don't think so. I don't think it was tactical this time, because they went from being like, we're gonna win the treble, we're gonna win a European competition and the cup and the league, to now they're really hoping that they can catch Fener.
Fener are ahead. Fener are leading. Galatasaray are leading the league. Galatasaray are leading, and they're 1 point ahead. So Fener are the one who was chasing them.
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, more just stay in competition with Fener, I guess.
With Fener, I only watched the second half, and it was already 2-0. So obviously that's kind of a skewed version, but I definitely, from Fener, from what I saw, I definitely had more of the feeling that I think this is a conscientious decision to exit the cup. I don't think they would have liked to lose 3-0, but I think, I felt also afterwards, it felt like Galatasaray were more upset about the elimination than Fenerbahçe were. But I also think it's kind of like, even if you want to exit the cup, like you're playing at home, lots of fans showed up, paid money.
And like Ankaragücü on the road is one thing, but like Fatih Karagümrük at home,
exactly. So it's like
your B team should
if you're playing Ankaragücü on the road, and it's kind of like losing at home the way Galatasaray did against Karagümrük is more. Like you're letting your fans down in the home stadium,
And like let's be serious too. Like on the other side. For Fener, like winning the title this year is existential for them, right? Like they're so bereft of any success. A cup won't do it. It's not going to placate their fans. They won the cup. Have to win the league.
They won the cup last season. They don't care about the cup. They haven't won the league in 10 years.
It's getting to the point. It's like desperation hour, I think. In
a European Cup could definitely cleanse their palate. But a domestic cup isn't going to do it for them.
No.
So anyway, in the semifinals, it's us against Ankaragücü. We travel. This is with home and away legs, by the way. We go to Ankara first, and then we play the return in Istanbul. So that is favorable, of course. Still, Ankara away is never easy. So, Galatasaray had a pretty easy time there 2 weeks ago. But, we'll see. It'll be a tough game, but it's the only thing standing between us and the Turkish Cup final right now. And the other
are we home or away? And you said we're away again?
It's 2 legs. So we are away.
Yeah,
we are away first, and then we are at home. And then in the other semi-final, it's Fatih Karagümrük against Trabzonspor. So it's either a final. If we qualify, it's either a final against Trabzonspor or against Fatih Karagümrük. So
realistically, you'd imagine it'll be Trabzon, but one never knows. I guess you would have guessed Galatasaray would beat them too. So.
Exactly. So I think that's pretty much all we have to talk about. The cup is obviously, I think, our main priority now. I mean, Santos has mentioned it multiple times as well, that the cup is a priority, and obviously it's the only trophy we are realistically in for. We're never winning the league this season. That's just not happening. We're like 20 something points behind. We're already out of Europe, so the cup is the only trophy left for us to win. So, but the same thing is true for Trabzon, and the same thing is true for these other 2 teams, of course. But I think, for the big clubs where the expectation of the fans is trophies, Trabzon and Beşiktaş are obviously the 2 big remaining clubs in this in this cup tournament. Although, of course, for a club like Ankaragücü with their big loyal fan base, winning a cup would mean so much as well.
For sure.
And the same, for Fatih Karagümrük, obviously winning a cup would be tremendous for them, but obviously
for their 7 fans also.
Smaller club. So but for Ankaragücü, I mean, obviously it's a dream.
That's a huge deal for them. Yeah, no, and I mean, look, as far as the title race, we have 11 matches left, which is 33 points. If Fener lose. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to even do the math on that. Basically, I think Fener could lose all but 5 matches and we still wouldn't catch them. So it's not.
No, exactly. It's not happening. No. So the cup is really.
I was going to do what happens is if they lose 10 matches out of their remaining 11,
would you say that the cup is must win for Beşiktaş? It's a failure if we don't?
Now, if you said going into the year that we were going to be in the semifinals against Trabzon and Fatih Karagümrük and Ankaragücü, I would be like, we better beat those fuckers, right?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, when you look at the context of where we're coming from as a team, we were so in the doghouse for so long there that it's almost hard to believe that we're actually making a run of it now. So, I'm of 2 minds on it. In a normal year, we would absolutely feel like we have to win it in these circumstances. But, we really are still looking for that stability and for an identity on the pitch. And we're just starting to find it. So it's can we find it before that this big semifinal? Are we still gonna have it when we reach that final? If we do, there's a lot like question marks. I hope we'll win it. Let me put it that way. I really hope so.
I think I'm a little bit more demanding. I have been saying this. I don't think I've said it on air, but I've been saying it in our group chat. I think that winning the cup is a must. And that was obviously before the Fenerbahçe and Galatasaray got eliminated. But I had a strong suspicion. I had a very strong suspicion they would get eliminated this round, because this round, 1 game. The next round is 2 games, home and away. And for Galatasaray, it would have meant more than likely 2 games Trabzonspor. For Fenerbahçe, it would have meant more than likely 2 games Beşiktaş. And I don't think that's something either team wants right now. I know Galatasaray have made short work of Trabzonspor in the league. They've also been quite lucky in the sense that they played Trabzonspor really early in the season. That was before Paul Unuwachu came. And then again, they were super lucky because they played them early in the second half of the season. That's when Paul Unuwachu was still at the AFCON. So, like, Galatasaray have twice now played a weakened Trabzonspor side, and yeah, they beat them handily. But despite that, I think they wouldn't want to have double confrontations with them when their their main priority is the league. Like, that's what gives you the access to the Champions League and the money they need so desperately. And for Fenerbahce, it's not so much the money. It's more, well, obviously the money is big too, but it's more just finishing that 10-year dry spell. We've been saying this from the beginning of the season when we were doing like the season previews and stuff like that with the money that both clubs spend.
Yeah, I don't know how either one of them is going to afford second place.
Exactly. That's a great way of putting it, Sinan. They cannot afford second place. I don't think either of them can, for somewhat different reasons. For Galatasaray, it's not so much the prestige. I mean, they've won the title last season. They've won it plenty of times in recent years. Like, that's not the problem for them. For Galatasaray, it's mainly they spent a lot of money on getting Icardi in permanently. Spent a lot of money on Zaha. They spent a lot of money on Sanchez. They spent a lot of money in general. They didn't have that much money coming in. Fenerbahce, on the other hand, they sold well in the summer. They spent a lot of money on largely older players. Dusan Tadic is 35.
Yeah, they have a small window with these older guys now.
Dzeko is 37 or 38 already. Now they brought in Bonucci recently. They brought in Çağlar on a half-season loan, which they paid they paid 2 million for that half-season loan with no option to buy.
I guess maybe they'll win the Conference League or something. That's the only hope they have to make that make sense.
But do you? I don't know. I don't know if they will.
I don't know how they're gonna win. I don't know how whoever gets second place is gonna.
I think
survive.
If Fenerbahce say we are focused 100% on the Conference League, then I think they have a chance for sure.
But then what? Yeah, are they gonna sacrifice the title?
I don't think that Ismail Kartal has the balls for that.
No,
I think there will
He's speaking about the choker.
I mean, obviously. They have gotten through the group stages easily. They rotated a lot in Europe. They rotated a lot in those European games for the sole benefit of the league. To his credit, Kartal has rotated pretty well. They've gotten the results. They did get battered 6-1 by Nordsjælland, but they still qualified as group winners, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, nobody wants to lose 6-1 in Europe, but
maybe it matters for their ego. Yeah,
it definitely does in that regard. But they got what they needed to do and was get out of that group as the winner of the group, which allowed them to skip around. But yeah, I don't know.
Which it turns out might have been very important considering what happened to Galatasaray.
They are playing Union Saint-Gilloise from Belgium. Saint-Gilloise.
Gilles.
Yeah, so Union, they have been a really good team for the last couple of years. They've gotten really close to the Belgian title. This season, it looks like they might actually end up doing it. And that will be the first time since pre-war times, I think, because they have 12 league titles in Belgium. But all of them.
So it's one of those like historical.
Yeah, they've basically been out of the league since the 60s. So they've been out of the top flight since the 60s, and then a couple of years ago they got bought out by. Who was it? I don't remember. But anyway, they've been doing good. They just eliminated Club Brugge from the Belgium Cup, actually.
Wow, okay.
Beat them 2-0, I think. So, yeah, I mean, they beat Club Brugge. That says something about how good they are. And obviously, they've been doing good in Europe last season as well. Good European campaign. So that'll be tough for Fenerbahce for sure. Even at full strength, Fenerbahce are not going to just walk over those guys. It's just not, that's a tough team. And I have serious doubts whether Ismail Kartal is willing to take that risk.
Play a full team when he has to win the league.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, and it's actually, I think, worth noting. And I think this probably hurt Galatasaray more than Fener losing in the cup, because the amount of money they spent essentially should have guaranteed that they'd have a good enough B team to beat just about anyone in Turkey with their B team, especially like a Fatih Karagümrük. So no doubt, like against in the semifinals, if they had to play, who they would have had Trabzon twice. Like sure, they would have played their B team. They could have lost. They would have felt, I think, minimally disappointed by that. But their B team, right? Like you think of a lot of the guys who played in the cup, like those are big names from abroad, right? Like the way they set their team up, they have a lot of good players who are kind of like rotation pieces.
I think Galatasaray had less squad depth though. Like if you looked at their lineup yesterday or Friday, whatever it was, don't. I mean,
it depends on your perspective though. Like a lot of those guys who now I think we look at them and are like, oh well, that guy's not good enough to make it. But like a Kazimcan or whatever, right? Like they. Or I mean, look. So this is their lineup.
He's a Dankerudju now, by the way.
They had Tete, right, who is one of these like foreign guys who's sort of a depth, right? He has to get minutes somehow, and you'd expect him to be able to, or they would have to spend that money like they did. They would hope he would be able to beat like a Karagümrük type, right? You have Zaha.
Yeah, of course.
Sergio Oliveira, this new guy Derek Kuhn, like they. Like their backup right back is Kaan Ayhan, right? Like but Vitor Nelson was playing in this game. Like again, like there's
Nelson's been playing again lately though. Like he's been playing in general. That's
the point though, right? They should have more than enough in their minds to get past.
But I think yes. But the thing is, Fenerbahce can field a B team and have 11 different players almost from their A team.
Yeah.
Galatasaray can't do that. If you look at their lineup yesterday, Kerem Aktürkoğlu started, Barış Alper Yilmaz started. Kaan Ayhan has been their right back recently because Aurier came in and Bowie they sold Bowie and Sergio Aurier got injured straight away. So really, yesterday Icardi didn't play, Mertens didn't play. And Kerem Demirbay didn't play from the start, and Torreira. Those guys all came on, except for Icardi, all of them came on. Which
suggests they may have really wanted to win the game. Which is even worse for them.
And then Sanchez didn't play, but then their central duo was Nelson and
Abdul Karim.
Abdul Karim, exactly. So
I see what you're saying. So what you mean is like they don't even really have a full B team to play.
I
guess my point was that they're good enough that they should be winning. But sure. But
my point is that they might not want the accumulation of fatigue because they're going to have to field too many starters, and
that's possible. Yeah.
And for Fenerbahce, you could argue, okay, they can go through and they can still play, for the most part, the B team, like 7, 8, 9 different guys.
Although I gotta say,
let
me tell you the lineup that Fener played against Ankara because this is not good for them. Sure, so they're back up Batshuayi up front, but they had Tadic. Szymanski, Cengiz, so that's 3 starters. Krunic and Zajic, who are arguably starters. Right?
Krunic has been starting, and then Zajic hasn't been.
we could probably argue that Ziyech probably should get more minutes. He's talented enough. I don't really know what the issue is there, but Osai Samuel and I guess Mert Mulder is probably a backup right back, but Serdar Aziz and Bonucci on that back line. So they really don't.
Their back line was definitely rotated. But the thing is, like, Tadic is one of those guys. He wants to play every game. Szymanski actually didn't start the last game. They had Mert Hakan start. So there was a rotation in the sense of, well, Mert Hakan got 90 or whatever minutes in the league last week, and Szymanski came on as a sub. So, but they rotated a little bit more. But you're right. There's definitely plenty of starters in that lineup as well. Although
they should have been winning, you'd think. Like in they would have thought anyhow that was more than enough talent.
At the very least, I don't think they would have expected to get battered 3-0.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No, it's all just to point out that I don't think they're very happy about that result, which is good news for us.
And also maybe good news in the sense of, we saw, Ankara peaked in that game. We saw it. We know what the dangers are. We're not going to go there and underestimate them, hopefully.
True. And Fernando Santos, where he requested a video analyst a few weeks back, so hopefully they really are, going over those highlights and pouring over the game and finding weaknesses and not going to But like again, it all just speaks to the fact that Fener and Galatasaray's form is dipping. I mean, ironically, both of them at the worst time, which makes it even more competitive for the two of them. I think
for Fener, we've been seeing it for a couple of weeks now. Galatasaray have been comfortably winning in the league, but then, of course, they got humiliated in Europe last week.
And then in the cup.
And now in the cup, So there's definitely... Emre Belözoğlu, after he lost 3-0 at home to Galatasaray, said that this might be the best Galatasaray team in history. Sergen then played them this weekend, and he said, "Wow, this is not the best."
They're not very special.
They're a good team, but they're not the best in history for sure. I think that's a bonkers statement anyway. There's literally a team that has won the only European Cup ever in Turkish football history, and they were definitely a better team than this.
I mean, maybe this is Galatasaray's most expensive team.
That for sure.
That's a whole other statement.
That is definitely the case. I mean, the amount of. But if you look at the money they spent this summer, because they had a good team last season, right? And if you look now at their team, like the team that's been winning games, like almost other than Sanchez. There's not a single new guy that's important for them this season. Ziyech is not playing. Yeah. He's not playing at all.
And Icardi has not had the season he did last year.
No, but Icardi was there last season, right? So I'm not even counting him. But Tete has been a big disappointment. Ziyech has been a big disappointment simply because he's
obviously.
Zaha has been underwhelming. If you look at the money that they paid for that guy and all the whole thing that was going on in the beginning of the season with Fenerbahce trying to get him basically the entire summer, and then Galatasaray swooping in, signing him, the Çalın transfer. And as we know, those Çalın transfers almost never end up good because they always blow up in your face, and this one definitely blew up in their faces. I mean, look, maybe he goes on Sunday and he scores a hat-trick against us. I don't know. But even if he does, I mean, that'll definitely make some of their fans happy and probably forget for a while how much of a disappointment he's been.
Yeah, how mediocre he's been.
But you can't deny the fact that other than a couple of outliers, he's been pretty underwhelming.
He's even complaining now, so it's not a good look over there.
But Okan Buruk is publicly dressing him down and saying that he isn't bringing enough and all that kind of stuff. And maybe that's something that'll motivate Zaha. Maybe on Sunday he explodes. Maybe it comes back to haunt me. But I mean, I don't think I'm saying anything that their own fans aren't saying.
No. Is he even starting for sure?
He
might not even play.
He's been on the bench. He was rotated in for this cup game because he's been on the bench a lot.
Exactly.
Because obviously they have Kerem, who is I would argue
guaranteed
their best player, and then Barış Alper has been amazing recently. He's been playing right back at times, and he's playing Barış Alper. I think is a really good player. But
I agree.
their two best players arguably are Turks at the moment, and then Dries Mertens, who they were ready to get rid of. They were like looking of maybe,
to go send him to Saudi Arabia or something.
Yeah,
right?
they were like I don't know if it was really the club or mostly the fans, but like in the summer it was like, Mertens has been super important for them this season. Do you remember those goals in the qualifiers, like like against the run of play, and like also now recently he's been their go-to 10. Like everyone expected Hakim Ziyech to become the big man, but it's been Mertens, and kudos to him. It's his last season, by the way. He's retiring at the end of the season.
Is Ziyech is a loan or what? It's like a one.
Ziyech is a loan.
Contract?
Yeah, it's a loan. Yeah.
He's gone, huh?
So there's been rumblings about him being really upset because he hasn't been getting paid on time or whatever, and that's why he's not playing. But I don't know if that's true.
One of the things I hate the most about the Turkish media is the way that they overanalyze like body language and stuff. And recently there was a video of, it was like Ziyech, I want to say Ndombele and Zaha or something like that, but like they were just like walking out of the stadium.
Oh yeah.
And people were like, look at this, look what they're doing. And I have no idea. I still don't know what we were supposed to look at.
Something dawned on me actually today or yesterday, is like in Turkey we have like all these post-game talk shows on all these different channels, and almost every single one of them have like referees, like ex-referees. And I was just thinking, like, this dawned on me today, like they don't have that in Belgium. Frank de Blekeren isn't constantly doing post-match stuff. They don't have that in the Netherlands. I don't think they have it in Germany. They don't have it in England. Like, what is this obsession in Turkey with referees as pundits? What's that
crazy.
all about?
It says so much about like what's wrong with the game.
And most of the time, the referees that turn pundits are the worst referees. Like
I know. But then what's also weird is that they suddenly, like, they're retired and they know how to make calls suddenly.
Oh yeah,
that's
exactly.
Another weird thing.
Yeah, and then suddenly you hear them like, I'm a Chaka.
Beşiktaş should have gotten a penalty on that. It's like, really?
I made a mistake 40 years ago. I shouldn't have given that penalty, but Ari fooled me. Oh, blah blah blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It's like those types of things. Like anyway. Let's not. We've talked a lot about penalties, and let's not go. Into
referee. Yeah, we're feeding into the culture. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, we really are. I mean, but Turkey, I think, is a very perverse. I think Turkey is a very perverse country when it comes to football, because there's this massive obsession with referees every week. And like, Galatasaray and Fenerbahçe, if they don't win a game, it's always the referee's fault. It's always the referee's fault. I mean, I'll blame the ref if it's the ref's fault, but like so many times this season, the ref was shit, but we were shitter.
Yeah, exactly. And we've always said that too. It's like, as bad as the ref was, we can't use that as our excuse. Like,
I mean, look,
there's not enough of that mentality in Turkish football in general, right? You look at Galatasaray and Fener fans and the way that they go on about refs after every match, and it's like, what? Even if they win games, they're still complaining. Like, even if they get like 2 penalty shouts in a match, they're whining for a third.
That's like, why did this not get a red card? There should have been a red card. And then that same game, there's like probably 2 or 3 situations where why didn't the other team get a penalty? Why didn't your player get a red card? And those types of things. And like, I mean, look, I think our fans sometimes are just as bad. Like I'll see stuff sometimes where you're like, I don't know about that one, guys, or like, like
now our fans have thrown a number of players under the bus too soon, and we have a pretty toxic fan base.
I think that seems to be a Turkish problem though. Like the toxicity of the fans seems to have gotten so bad in the last 15 years. I want to say with the rise of social media, it's gotten really, really bad.
No doubt about it. And what's worse is, like, I think you're starting to feel like it's impacting the performance on the pitch, right? It's impacting the way clubs operate. This like short-term, results now kind of mentality has prevented teams from building systems properly, right? You know what I mean? But like, I feel like it's gotten to the point now where, I don't know, like fans are calling for heads really quickly, and like there's these agendas that are in place, like before managers even come in, so it's harder for managers to even get support in the beginning. I mean, I don't know. I agree with you. Like, there's something especially toxic right now in Turkey that I don't know how to explain.
And I don't know if you have that as much in other countries. Maybe I guess in like Spain, where you also have the socio system, you probably have this as well. But we have this where like there's like talk of the elections in 2025, and Emre Kocadai is going to run, and he's funding these guys and he's funding those guys.
Yeah, he's like starting a media
and they're going
to company,
and they're going to start deliberately being critical and stuff like that, and all these rumors and stuff and innuendo, and maybe it's true, like because like I said, Turkey is a very perverse country when it comes to all that. But yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna stop, man, because my kid is coughing in the background. I don't know if you've been picking that up. But,
no, it's he's been quiet about it.
Oh, okay.
But that's okay.
I think we've
got a good long episode.
Sure. Yeah,
and we don't have much else to say, I would argue. I think we've covered all of our bases.
Sunday, big game, and then we'll see when the fixtures for the cup come out. We already know that we play away first, but I don't think the dates are known yet.
Yeah, it's weird that we don't have like a template for when at least. I don't even know what week they're going to play. And now that it's like midweek, I guess it almost doesn't matter, right?
I mean, we still have like 10, 11 games left in the season or something. So, there's still plenty of time, and then the cup final will
and
be
the boys, there's actually only one. Plus, the team in Europe are out of the cup, so it doesn't really matter.
I'm very curious what they're going to do with the Super Cup, by the way, because I think they announced a date for that, but they don't want to play that too close to the cup final, I would imagine, because that kind of takes a little bit of the,
Right, the gravitas of the cup game. So the Super Cup will be Galatasaray Fener, I guess, right?
It will, yeah, exactly, because Fener won the cup last season. Yeah. So I think that's also one of those games where both of them are probably like, don't really need, we don't need that. Because, I mean, it can impact either of them negatively, right? Like, if one, like, somebody's going to win.
They would be playing their academy kids, I would imagine, if they tried to pull that. I mean, I don't know.
I think they're playing it in April, so I'm not sure, but yeah. Anyway, Sinan, thank you very much for joining me again this week, and hopefully we have a good episode next week where we can rave about our derby performance.
Something tells me if we don't play well next week, we might have another a gap week before we.
I think we don't have a cup game and stuff like that, so I think we have plenty of time to record before the next game.
In theory, yeah.
So we should be able to work something out, right?
Yeah. No, obviously, I'm joking. I imagine we'll be depressed if things go really poorly, but honestly, not really, right? Like, what are we? We can't realistically hope for like an easy win against a team that spent that much.
No, exactly. And also, I think, like, knock on wood, it's going to be difficult for us to play as bad as we did against Fenerbahce anyway, right? Like, and that was Fenerbahce firing on all cylinders, us in the probably worst place we've been all season, and now we're in a better place. Galatasaray have not been as impressive as Fener, and I would argue, like, the heights of Fener have been higher than the heights of Galatasaray this season, for sure.
Agreed.
But I mean, it's a big game. It's the chance for some of their players to rise to the occasion. And some of their big players, they have big players. They have guys like Mertens, guys like Icardi. Maybe this is a chance for Zaha to answer the critics. So let's hope for us that our big guys, our big players show up. Let's hope for a good game from Mucci. Mucci in Poland was known as a big game player. Somebody that would sometimes maybe be a little bit more anonymous in the smaller matches, but always showed up for the big games. He showed that in Europe as well against Aston Villa, so let's hope he continues that trend and becomes a big game player for us. Al Musrati is going to be really important in this match, and of course, Semi, our young wonder kid, with some rumors surrounding him.
Man City.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that one next week. Maybe.
Well, let's keep it for now. I think this transfer talk is far off.
Yeah, exactly.
But in the summer, there'll be possibilities there. But I mean, I hope he stays at least one more season. But if what we are being told is true, then maybe not. I don't know.
I'll make you an offer you can't refuse.
I mean, if those numbers are real, then I think that's pretty much an offer you can't refuse, right?
Yeah, dude, that's it for sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's call it quits.
Let's do so. Sinan, thanks for joining me.
I do have to say one more thing though. This is actually really vitally important. Let's go Beşiktaş! Gotcha.
Yeah.
Peace out, everyone. You thought I was gonna say something serious. But yeah, do go Beşiktaş. Let's do it, huh?
Let's do it. Yeah, exactly.
The huge match. All right. Peace out, everyone. See you next time.
See you, everyone. Bye bye.